You've noticed it. The co-worker who can't celebrate anyone's success without finding a way to diminish it. The friend who only calls when something goes wrong in your life. The family member who makes every conversation about their suffering, their struggle, their endless list of grievances. 10 years ago, you could avoid these people. Now, they're everywhere. In your office, in your feed, in your mirror on the days you're honest with yourself. Something has changed. Not in isolated individuals, but in the fabric of how people operate. There is a sickness spreading, and it disguises itself as virtue. It wears the mask of sensitivity. It hides behind the language of justice, and it is rotting people from the inside out while convincing them they're the good ones. Nietzsche saw this coming over a century ago. He identified a psychological phenomenon he called resentment, not resentment, something deeper. A festering, slow-burning poison that forms in people who feel powerless, and instead of overcoming that powerlessness, they redefine weakness as morality. They can't climb, so they convince themselves climbing is evil. They can't win, so they make winning a sin. They can't create, so they dedicate their lives to tearing down those who do. This isn't just bitterness, it's an entire worldview built on the foundation of inadequacy. And modern society has turned it into a religion. Look at what gets rewarded now. Victimhood is currency. The more oppressed you can claim to be, the more authority you're granted. The more ways you can identify yourself as marginalized, the louder your voice is allowed to be. This isn't compassion. This is a hierarchy of suffering where the goal isn't to overcome pain, but to accumulate it. People collect wounds like trophies. They compete for who has it worse. And anyone who refuses to participate, anyone who takes responsibility for their own life, becomes the enemy. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because their existence is an insult to those who've built their identity on being damaged. Nietzsche predicted a future dominated by what he called the last man. A creature with no aspirations beyond comfort and safety. No desire to build, to struggle, to become anything greater than what he already is. The last man doesn't want to climb mountains. He wants to tear them down so no one else can either. He doesn't want excellence. He wants equality of mediocrity. And he will destroy anyone who reminds him of what he chose not to become. Modern society hasn't just tolerated this type, it has industrialized him. It has given him platforms, movements, and moral justification for his envy. The toxic person isn't born, they're manufactured. Take a human being and remove all challenge from their life. Protect them from failure. Shield them from criticism. Tell them their feelings are always valid and their problems are always someone else's fault. What do you get? Someone who has never developed resilience. Someone who crumbles at the first sign of discomfort. Someone who experiences every disagreement as violence and every obstacle as oppression. Now give that person a smartphone and an audience. Watch what happens. They don't grow, they recruit. They find others who share their fragility, and together they build a fortress of shared grievance. Anyone outside that fortress is a threat. Anyone who suggests they might be responsible for their own lives is committing harm. Nietzsche understood that strength isn't about domination. It's about self-overcoming, the ability to face your own limitations and transcend them, to look at your failures and use them as fuel rather than excuses. This is what he meant by the will to power, not power over others, power over yourself. The toxic person has no interest in this. Self-improvement implies there's something wrong with them, and they've been told their whole lives that there isn't. So instead of growing, they shrink the world to fit their smallness. They demand that reality accommodate their weakness rather than strengthening themselves to meet reality. There's a reason you feel exhausted after spending time with certain people. They're not just negative, they're parasitic. They feed on your energy because they produce none of their own. They can't generate joy, so they leech yours. They can't create meaning, so they attack yours. Every conversation becomes about their problems. Every success you share gets minimized or redirected. Every boundary you set gets framed as abandonment. These people aren't unlucky. They're strategic. Consciously or not, they've learned that guilt is a weapon, and they'll use it until you have nothing left to give. The cruelest part is how society protects them. Call out a toxic person and you're labeled insensitive. Set a boundary and you're accused of lacking compassion. Walk away and you're abandoning someone in need. The game is rigged so that the person doing the damage is always the victim and the person trying to escape is always the abuser. Nietzsche saw this inversion as the ultimate triumph of slave morality. The weak don't just survive. They rewrite the rules so that weakness becomes strength, and strength becomes sin. And anyone who refuses to kneel at the altar of fragility gets crucified for it. You've probably been called toxic yourself by someone who couldn't handle your honesty, someone who mistook your boundaries for cruelty, someone who experienced your success as a personal attack on their stagnation. This is how the word loses meaning. When everyone is toxic, no one is. When every disagreement is abuse, real abuse disappears into the noise. The people doing the most damage are often the ones screaming loudest about damage being done to them. And they've learned that the accusation itself is enough. Proof isn't required. Context doesn't matter. The claim is the conviction. The solution isn't to become cold, it's to become discerning. Nietzsche didn't advocate for cruelty, he advocated for standards, for the courage to judge, for the willingness to say this serves life and this doesn't. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not every wound deserves your attention. Not every person claiming victimhood is actually a victim. Some of them are predators who've learned that vulnerability is the perfect camouflage. Your job isn't to save them. Your job is to not let them drag you down while they pretend to drown. The world will keep producing these people as long as the incentives remain. But you don't have to participate. You don't have to applaud weakness. You don't have to pretend that suffering is sacred or that fragility is strength. You can choose differently. And that choice is the first step toward becoming something they never will.